Brian Mayer, host of Hot Sauce Weekly. And you are listening to BCRN, all barbecue and grilling all the time.
Yay! Let's go!
We'll do it live. Okay. Well, do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
So to get that perfect barbecue, you use wood. Are you sure it's safe? Whatever. We put the lighter fluid on, strike the match, and... Oh! Should we call the fire department? That might be a good idea.
Hey, good evening and welcome to the Really Big Barbecue Central Show. This is the show that talks about all things that are important to the world of barbecue and grilling. The show originating from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city, Bomb City, USA, Cleveland, Ohio, the barbecue capital of the North Coast. I'm your program host, Greg Rempe. Happy to have you aboard here on your Tuesday evenings, a live fire, fun, and frivolity show. If you'd like to get in contact with the show tonight or you'd like to follow the show during off-show hours, here's how you do it.
You can get in touch with the show by sending an email to Greg at BBQCentralShow.com. Follow us on all the social media channels at BBQ Central Show. And be sure to subscribe to the show podcast feed on your favorite podcast platform.
Anything else you want to find out about the show can be found at the main website, thebbqcentralshow.com. And here's what's happening in case you get the newsletter. It is the second Tuesday of the month, and in the first interview segment of this show, you know who we're having, the creator of AmazingRibs.com, a guy singularly named Meathead. There he is. We will join Meathead. We will talk to him about a number of topics, get an update on Barbecue Stars, the videos, integration. We'll talk about some other things that might be panning out from a prognostication made early in 2023. And then we will move to 35 past the hour for, in that second interview spot, it is also second Tuesday of the month regular guest and contributing barbecue editor to Southern Living Magazine, Robert Moss. And tonight, Robert Moss and I will talk a bit about the 10 finalists for the 2024 Barbecue Hall of Fame. We mentioned that exclusively here this past Wednesday, along with the help of the American Royal, Elizabeth Gunter, and, of course, Amy Mills, who sat in as well to give some bio and background on the 10 finalists that are in there this year. So we'll talk to Robert about that. And we will also do a deep dive into spices and rubs and where they fit into the pantheon of Southern Style barbecue. And that'll bring a close to the first hour. They'll move to the second hour. All I can say is, in my humble opinion, and I don't throw this word around a lot, barbecue legend goes by two names, Jim Minion. That's right, Jim Minion. Now, maybe you're a little new to the game. You weren't around during the forum years. Well, that was hot technology. Jim Minion is a man that you should be thanking your lucky stars for how you fire your cooker and you didn't even know it. I'm not going to give it all away here in the open, but in the second hour, you're going to want to stay around. We have them for at least one segment, and depending how the conversation is going, we could run them into 35 past the second hour because I don't have a guest loaded in, solely for the reason that I wanted to see how this discussion was going to unfold. In my estimation, hugely famous, should be in the Barbecue Hall of Fame, should be recognized widely for who he is and what he's contributed to the live fire world. Maybe one of the biggest single inventions or creations in live fire since the grill or charcoal or you name the basic essentials that make live fire what it is today, Jim Minion is one of those guys. So if you don't know who he is, stick around for the second hour. So that's how the show's shaping up. Meathead and Robert Moss first hour, Jim Minion second hour. Don't forget you can follow me socially, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Snapchat, LinkedIn, all at the handle at BBQ Central Show. We say good evening to those of you watching tonight through one of our video streaming platforms. You can get the show on video through Facebook.com/BBQ Central Show or Twitter.com/BBQ Central Show, or you can go all the way over to YouTube and watch it at YouTube.com/@BBQ Central Show, where we do have a new YouTube poll question of the week, and we're asking everybody this, including all guests. You believe that Sam's Club can sell a well-built, feature-rich grill at a value price, and currently 56% of you are saying you don't believe. It's tight. Not too long ago, it was 50-50. Not too long before that, it was 67-33, no and yes, respectively. So right off the bat, we're starting in a hotly contested YouTube poll question of the week. Again, 56% of you are currently saying no, you don't believe that. But we'll do our best to change your mind as the show goes on and as the show goes on. This show, future shows is what I should be saying. Results from the poll question of last week. How quickly do you expect a text message reply after you send one? 1 minute or less, 5 minutes or less, or no expectation of reply at all. And 55% of you said 5 minutes or less, and 32% of you said you have no expectation that you're going to get a reply at all. And to those 32% of the people that say you have no expectation, what the hell are you sending it for in the first place? If you're sending a text message, if I'm sending a text message, and by the way, I fell in the 11% that said they expect a reply in 1 minute or less. Because unless I am busy otherwise through work or an emergency in life, I'm replying back to any and all text messages within a minute or less, by and large. So I demand the same for my audience. But why would you send a text message if almost the majority of folks say you have no expectation? You're just floating it out there in hopes that maybe... Well, you're not even hoping you get an answer. You're not even expecting, is what I should say. Well, that's the way the poll ended last week, in case you were wondering. So we'll start here this evening. As you can imagine, people are still buzzing over the Andrew Zimmern interview from last week. 35 past the first hour. We ran them over into the second hour for a little bit because conversation was going so well. In full disclosure, in case you missed it, there was a crowning moment for me that happened last Tuesday when I asked Andrew specifically, and I'll paraphrase it, about the dilution of talent in TV today. I believe what I said specifically was, do you think in this day and age with all the outlets available, it's easier to make television, or do you feel that there has now become a dilution of talent? And in case you missed what he said exactly this.
That's one of the most intelligent questions anybody has ever asked me.
Of course it is. Like, who do you think you're dealing with? This isn't some run-of-the-mill podcast. This isn't some party line that you just happen to waltz into, and now you're hearing some guys talk about nonsense stuff. You take the time to separate yourself from everybody else by how? Sounding professional, demanding high-quality sound from guests. By the way, as you would recall, I was supposed to have Andrew on the show towards the end of January, and he wasn't up to audio snuff. So I cut him right before the show started. Sent him out some gear. We got it tested, and all of a sudden, everybody's so happy. Let's look at some past show feedback. Dennis in Colorado is writing in. Greg, Andrew Zimmern interview was Hall of Fame stuff. Outstanding. He looked and sounded incredible. Great call rebooking him. Such a smart interview conducted by you. Big score. Regards, Dennis. Dennis, thank you for writing in. I agree. Big score, no doubt. Very large personality, both from a popularity standpoint and an opinion standpoint. We covered some of that last week. Jamie in Missouri writing in, Greg, I didn't know anything about Sam the cooking guy being on the Today Show, let alone him telling Hoda Kotb and Kathy Lee Gifford to be quiet when he was on a second time. I went to YouTube to see it. I've watched it at least 100 times or more. It's so good. I love it. Thanks for bringing it up and telling us all about it. Podcast listener only. Regards, Jamie. Jamie, of course. When I think of best things to watch on YouTube, inevitably I'm typing in Sam the Cooking Guy, Hoda, Kathy Lee, and there it is. And it was a long time ago, 15 years ago, so the quality is bad. It's not high def anymore, but come on. Sam telling those broads to put a sock in it was tremendous. Second time only. Hey, by the way, as we circle back to the poll question of the week, do you think that Sam's Club can sell a well-built, feature-rich grill at a value price? Well, how about this? Say hello to the future of grilling with a patented thermostatic control technology. That's right. You heard me right, Meathead. Members Mark Grill, sold exclusively in Sam's Club stores, now has patented thermostatic control technology on a gas grill. 2 cooking modes that allow you to cook the way you want. First mode, we call it barbecue or grill mode. Your traditional grilling experience, variable temperatures on the knobs, giving you the control of each burner to adjust exactly the way you want it on your terms, just like you've come to know and love from gas grills. Then you have the game-changing mode called oven mode. So above, this is a 5-burner Pro Series I'm talking about, above the burner knobs, there's a smaller knob that gets you into oven mode. Starts at 225 on the low end, increases to 250, and then 50-degree increments around the dial until you get to 450. Simply set the thermostatic control dial to your desired temperature, and now your grill transforms into a precise oven. So the choice is yours. Do you want to do it regular grill style with twisting the knobs, or do you just want to dial in a temperature and cook something else like a meatloaf or bread? I mean, pretty much anything you want to cook in your oven, you can cook in the Members Mark Pro Series grill. Both the 4-burner and the 5-burner have the thermostatic control technology on it. So, only available, as I said, at Sam's Club store. So if you're not a member, you got to go to Sam's Club and become a member, number one. And then go check out that grill for yourself. And you see how much value they've packed into that mother. Members Mark Pro Series with thermostatic control, now available at all of your local Sam's Club stores. Check it out. Made by Winners Products. They're the ones that are sponsoring the show, believe it or not. Winners, not Sam's, Winners. They love the grill so much they wanted to talk about. And we will have James Howe on the show in 2 weeks' time to talk further. Lots of great info coming from James. Meanwhile, Meathead is ready to go. We'll get to him here in just 1 second. Stick around. Be right back.
You're listening to the BBQ Central Show. Broadcasting live from the BBQ Central Show studios in Cleveland, Ohio. You're listening to the BBQ Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
Welcome back to this portion of the show being brought to you by cookinpellets.com, your number one source for quality wood pellets for all your pellet-driven cookers. You know by now what they have, so go directly to the following websites to purchase: Amazon.com, Lowe's.com, or Walmart.com. Same great products that they have on cookinpellets.com, but the best shipping rates around at those other websites. My first guest tonight created one of the most heavily trafficked barbecue and grilling websites, and then has continued to foster it as such. Is a best-selling author, a Barbecue Hall of Famer, but more importantly than that, a Barbecue Central Show's guest Hall of Famer, but more importantly than that, my pal Meathead is back at it. All right, Meathead, here we go. Before we jump into it this evening, well, wait, before I get into anything this evening, do we need to do a mic check? Because last time you said the microphone was broke, and, let's hear it now.
Testing,
All
1, 2.
Right, we're good. We're good.
YouTube,
Greg, yes.
That's the most intelligent question anybody's ever asked me.
That's one of the most intelligent questions anybody has ever asked me.
That's right. He said it live here on the show. Meathead, I'm asking you and other guests as well as people watching on the YouTube channel, you believe that Sam's Club can sell a well-built, feature-rich grill at a value price, yes or no?
I've only been in Sam's Club like once in my life about 5 years ago, so I don't know much about the company, but why not? I mean, the concept of grill design is pretty well established. As you know, I thought you alluded to it earlier, have been calling for thermostat control in gas grills for years.
We've talked about it forever.
If it's finally here, it makes sense. I mean, we have thermostat control on our indoor ovens. Why not on our outdoor ovens? So bless them. I'm going to go down there. I'm going to tell Max about it if he doesn't know about it. And we're going to have to check this baby out.
All right. So 53% of the voting public currently saying that they do not believe that it can be something that is produced, but closely are the yeses, both you and I, and 47% of the voting public. Any updates on Barbecue Stars and Pitmasters Club and integration? What can you tell us?
Yeah, last month you broke the news that AmazingRibs.com has purchased BBQStars.com. BBQStars.com was launched in 2019. And it contains 120 broadcast quality videos from some really good pitmasters: Tuffy, Stone, Harry, Sue,
Jack Arnold.
Kent Rollins. Many of these people have been guests on your shows, chefs, and they're all great videos. And they sold the whole subscription series for $300, and it just kind of went along, and they sold a couple of thousand, and it kind of petered out, and it's just been sitting there idling. And there's such great content, so we made them an offer, and we bought all 120 videos, and now they are available effective today. So again, you're breaking this story to the members of our Pitmaster Club. And membership in our Pitmaster Club is not $299 as the videos originally sold for.
Right.
It's only $35. So you can get all 120 videos for joining the Pitmaster Club, plus the many other benefits the Pitmaster Club has. We're really happy. It's been a big project integrating the two, and eventually we'll move it all onto AmazingRibs.com. But now it's still BBQStars.com. But you can't get in unless you have a membership in the Pitmaster Club. So come to AmazingRibs.com, join the Pitmaster Club for $35 a year, and get a $300 series of videos. You can take a 30-day free trial, and you'll get a small number of the videos, but not all of them.
All right, just enough to wet your whistle to pry that $35 out of your hand. A lot of value there, of course. Yeah.
It's really, I sound promotional and sales oriented here, but it's really a great series. 120, not talking 10, 20. God, I sound like Popeils. 120 videos. Where else are you going to get this?
Light from Lantern in the instant chat is saying any relation to knit stars. Like, that's where the whole thing came from. We're not going to go back into the whole backstory of how this came to be, but that lady killed it on knitting, and then somebody said, what about barbecue? And they decided to venture off, and that's how Barbecue Stars have it.
Yeah, Knit Stars was a huge success. There are a vast number of people who are into knitting. And Richard Alexander from Hasty Bake is our friend and said, let's do it with barbecue. And they did it. And it did okay. I think she broke even or made some money, not a lot. It was a little bit disappointing. And but in any case, it's now mine. And I'm just thrilled to death. I mean, you just go to amazingribs.com/BBQ-stars and learn about it. It's just really cool.
On March 15th, 2023, if you can remember all the way back then, over a year ago, you came on the show, you did the better part of a segment talking about how AI or artificial intelligence was going to change the world for people using Google search, especially as a way to drive traffic to the website or generate revenue for their website. It was going to be a whole new world. You gave speeches and dissertations at higher education facilities. What's new, and is your talk from a year ago panning out as you thought?
Yeah, I first called this actually in fall of 22, and then I did a presentation at Rochester Institute of Technology to the master's degree program and graduates of the master's degree program, telling them, look out. This is a freight train coming at you, and it is going to entirely change the internet. And today, Google announced that their whole search engine philosophy and approach is going to change. When you go to Google and ask it a question, and this is a topic that I know you're into, should you rest meat after you cook it? It will give you not just a list of websites that discuss this topic, but it will give you an answer. And what we're not clear on, and I'm pretty sure I understand what is next, is that websites like mine who discuss this can be viewed along with this answer if we grease their palm with money. This has always been their business model. Pay for advertising. So if you want to be high on the hit list of Google today, you pay.
I thought you used to be high on the list because you were generating the most traffic and you were doing SEO and all this other bullshit.
Google, as you I'm sure know, has always had essentially two hit lists. One is those sites that they consider meritorious and informational, that have good answers to the question. But right next to it or above it or around it, they always had websites that paid to be there. And they were marked clearly, but not that obviously. If you're paying attention, you could tell what was an ad and what was meritorious. But nobody is for sure on how the new Google search is going to look. And of course, that will also affect the way Bing, Microsoft search looks. But this is what's going to happen. If you go to Google and you ask, should I rest my steaks after I cook it? It's going to give you an answer, not a number of websites that try to answer it. And there's a real problem here. For example, that question that I just used is something that I know you and I have talked about, and you interviewed Chris Young, who just did some experiments. I've been advocating for years that it doesn't make a lot of sense. Chris, who's a scientist, went out and ran research tests to prove. And so he and I stand alone in this world of culinary, saying that maybe resting meat after cooking just doesn't make sense. There's some good reasons. Here's the test data. But if you search Google, it's going to bring you the consensus, which is by every website known to man, rest your meat after you cook it.
Here's what I found when I put it in just a few seconds ago. Now, this one looks like it's coming from marthastewart.com. So I said, should I rest steak after I cook it? And then it says up here, whether you're using bone-in, boneless cut, blah, 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 blah. So it looks like they scraped that off of Martha Stewart, and then they're giving her some type of credit underneath.
But you're looking at the old Google. There is now you can sign up to test the new AI-based Google.
Yeah.
And I did that today, and it did what I described. It didn't give you Martha Stewart. It gave you a Google AI answer that it pulled from Martha and elsewhere. And of course, the dissenting or the myth busting or the minority view is not shown. And this is a problem. I mean, for example, people, the entire internet says don't wash your cast iron with soap. And that's been disproven. The question is, will the new AI devices understand that there is a new or a myth busting or a minority viewpoint, or will it continue to give you the old myths? And so it's a problem.
From a business standpoint, we could sit here
It's
and argue
death.
all day about
It's
how
death.
valid is the information coming back. Is it debunked information? Is it whatever? But if you pay $300 a month or $3,000 a month like you had before, your ad is still going to show up, or you're still going to be supported, but you're underneath the you're underneath the answer that Google wants to give you, or because you're a paying customer, they're going to put them above the answer. Because to me,
clear.
like if I'm a business person, or if I'm Google and I'm soliciting money, or I want to make money in this way, you're the customer. I would want to make sure that you're seen first and that I'm not seen first. Otherwise, there's a very good chance somebody's going to read it and then they're done with it. They're not going to start scanning down the page.
Right. Yeah. Ideally, the AI answer would be footnoted. This information is garnered from the following websites or the following books or whatever their sources are. Listeners may not be aware, but the New York Times and Washington Post and many publications out there, Associated Press, I think, are all suing ChatGPT, which is the predominant AI search engine, for scraping their information. Which, if you're the New York Times or Associated Press, you pay reporters a lot of money to go into the field and gather data, and then ChatGPT and Google scrapes this information and presents it without accreditation. I mean, I've often talked to people who write for us, and I say, you have to give credit to people whose information you're using. First of all, they deserve the credit. Second of all, it makes you creditable. It makes you look like you've done your homework. So this is all, it's rapidly changing. I called it in fall 22. I did this big presentation at Rochester Institute of Technology in February, and you and I talked about it in March of 23, and it is now coming to pass, and it is going to change the internet drastically. It's going to be a massive upheaval, and for websites like mine, which depend on Google for about 60-70% of our traffic, it could mean a tremendous impact on our traffic and our revenue. It could mean death. And that is a trap for Google, because if they depend on people like us, authoritative websites, and they take away our traffic and put us out of business, then how are they going to present useful answers? All of this will shake down within the next 6 months to a year. But everybody who's listening, not just educational sites like mine, but barbecue restaurants, and there were some demonstrations given. Give me a good barbecue restaurant near me. How do they determine what's good? It's going to affect everybody. It's going to be massive.
So what's the pivot here? If we're being presented with, if having a generative response come back instead of the traditional Google search is the COVID of the day, and there were restaurants shutting down. We don't know how to do. Well, now we're going to do takeout, or now we're going to leverage delivery service. You know, there were pivots to stay in business. So what's the pivot for folks in order to stay in business or get another revenue stream to replace what might be taken away?
Greg, that's the smartest question anybody's ever asked me.
That's one of the most
it's a
intelligent
brilliant question.
questions anybody has ever asked me.
Thank you.
Yeah, that is the $64,000 question. I think, and we've been talking about this on our team for more than a year, since I blew the alarm in 22. I think, number one, you've got to build your mailing list. You've got to be able to find people and reach out to them now. You've got to get them into your own umbrella. So building your mailing list, if you're a restaurant or somebody else, you've got to start building your email mailing list. Because if Google doesn't show you when people search, you're not going to get traffic, and you're going to have to find ways to reach people your own. And you better start advertising. You better allow my website spends, now we generate, not going to give you a number,
$1 billion.
Well, we have 15,000 members paying $35 a year, roughly, plus advertise, yada, yada, yada. Our advertising budget last year was under 10 grand. I mean, basically, we don't advertise. We've never had to, because we are such a reliable, authoritative source on barbecue that Google has always found us. When people search for questions, they find us and they come to us. So it's all come for free. If this new system is as I think it's going to be, we are going to have to pay Google to be visible. And when I first thought about this, I thought, man, Google's shooting its own foot off. But in fact, I think they may be uncovering a greater revenue stream than they had before.
Here's the question.
Buy Google stock.
Yeah. Is this the death nail or the beginnings of death nail for websites in general? Will my website become irrelevant? No need for me to keep a website anymore? No need for anybody to keep a website anymore? And is that a potential fuck you to Google by everybody pulling their websites off, and now there's nothing to scrape? There's no information.
Well, of course, it's a complicated answer. Many websites, it won't affect at all. I mean, you know, if you're an accountant, you need to have a website on how to contact me. And you may have articles about how the current tax laws affect. So it may not affect you, because there's a bazillion accountants, and chances are Google isn't showing you anyhow. But for sites like mine, it's going to affect AmazingRibs.com and many of the barbecue websites, the informational websites, the educational websites like ours. It's going to affect us unless we find a way around it. And, you know, we have to see what Google is going to do with advertising. Will it be affordable? Will it be visible? Will they allow footnotes in their AI answers? None of these things we know for sure yet. My gut instinct is we have got to start budgeting for advertising, and we've got to find our audience and capture them and collect emails and reach them and drive them to the website via other means than search.
We're going to see how this unfolds over the next handful of months. The Meathead will keep us up to date on what's happening with AmazingRibs.com. In the meantime, you go to AmazingRibs.com, you check out all the free information, and then you fork over $35 and become a member of the Pitmaster Club if you aren't already, so you have access to the 120 broadcast quality videos, which Meathead does some himself. He is one of the talents on there. And you can see him right here on the second Tuesday of every month here on the Barbecue Central Show. Meathead, always appreciate the time, and we will see you in June.
Greg, always great to talk to you, and fun to reach out to the Centralites.
That's right. Meathead, right there. Not necessarily barbecue talk, but look, a lot of us own websites. A lot of us own websites that are secondary streams of income that you might be reliant on Google, as Meathead was talking about. They are over at AmazingRibs.com, at least to a large degree. So if you're in a similar situation, now it's time to make boss moves, as we say in the industry. Don't get caught lagging around and hoping that it just goes away on its own, because that's foolish thinking. Got to get out there and make some new moves. Look for the next pivot, like we were talking about. All right, Robert Moss is ready to go. Before we get to him, we'll talk to you about Schwank Grills. What do we know about Schwank Grills? Portable, yes. Something that you could permanently place in your backyard if you wanted to? Of course. It's multifaceted. You could permanently put it in, but in a way where you can take it out and take the tailgates, because football season is coming soon. So what do we know? Everybody's talking about the grill. Everybody's promoting this grill. I was listening to the Pete and Sebastian show Tuesday. That would be this morning. Listening to the newest episode. Right at the top of the show, what are they talking about? Schwank Grills. Pete Corielli talking about Schwank Grills. What does he know about it? Nothing. Now, I'm the authority. So listen to me. You want to cook chicken? You want to cook burgers? You want to do steaks? Get all that restaurant quality searing, great Maillard reactions, delicate fish, vegetables, all that. And you need something that can achieve those temperatures. Infrared burner technology, 1500 degrees. Using that infrared burner technology, and you can do it all in minutes. It's not taking you 20 minutes, 30 minutes, nothing like that. Some of the best steakhouses in the country use the Schwank grill technology in their kitchens. Morton's, Del Frisco's, Cut 432, all of them use Schwank. Not Schwank-like, but the actual Schwank. And now you can have it in your home, in the backyard. Again, you can put it in your cars, your vans, your SUVs. Take it wherever you want to go. Just bring the propane bottle with you. So you've bought it. I can feel it in my bones, but you want to save some money. How about I save you $150? Go to schwankgrills.com, SCHWAN, key schwankgrills.com. And then as you're checking out, use promo code BBQ Central. BBQ Central, all one word, for $150 off your Schwank Grills. Get two and give one to a pal. You'd be best friend ever for life. Plenty of ways to get to it through the show notes. There's a link there. You can click through on the newsletter if you subscribe to that, or you can just go to the main page of the website, thebbqcentralshow.com, and then click on the Schwank logo in the sponsor section. Takes you all over to schwankgrills.com, and then don't forget to use promo code BBQ Central at checkout to save that $150 off. Schwank Grills, proud sponsor of this show. Happy to have them. And we're happy to have Robert Moss, who is locked and loaded. So stick around. Be right back.
You're listening to the BBQ Central Show. Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the BBQ Central Show.
All right, welcome back. This portion of the show is brought to you by Fireboard. You can monitor up to 6 different temperatures simultaneously. You can connect to Wi-Fi for cloud-based monitoring, or the Bluetooth. Smart speaker, accessible and integratable. Find out more by visiting fireboard.com or call 816-945-2232. Good folks over at Fireboard. And by the way, it's Fireboard 2 and the Fireboard 2 Drive, if you're wondering. Guy the Cooking Sam saying it's Death Knell, not Death Nail. Isn't that what I said, Guy? I mean, F off. I'm a professional orator, Guy. I speak from a professional perspective. People pay me to speak. You are a keyboard commando just waiting to pounce on one word that I say wrong. Oh, excuse me. Sorry, we're not such elites as you are, Guy. Sitting at your keyboard, ready to pounce on me if I make one mistake. Sorry, for the first time in 19 years, I've made an oration error. My bad. I won't do it again, I promise. No more. Okay? Joining me now in the 35 past the hour segment is the contributing barbecue editor of the Southern Living magazine, a 2023 Barbecue Central Show's guest Hall of Famer, and also my pal, Robert Moss. All right, Robert, a couple different things that I didn't think I was going to be asking you about that we'll go ahead and start with here. But first, YouTube poll question of the week, and we're asking everybody this, including all guests. You believe that Sam's Club can sell a well-built, feature-rich grill at a value price, yes or no?
I think it can. I don't know if it will or not, but it certainly seems like it could.
All right. Believe it or not, we've drawn back to 100% even through the voting. We're 50-50. Half of us believe that Sam's can, and half of us believe that Sam's cannot provide a well-built, feature-rich grill available at the Sam's Club at a value price. So we'll see how the rest of the poll works out. I don't know how much of the end of the interview you caught with Meathead, but he was diving pretty hard into AI, pretty much giving himself a pat on the back, saying that his thoughts on AI may be ruining everything as far as Google is concerned, or how the way it was operating in the past is not going to be how it's going to be operating from here on out. You're a writer. You are very savvy with the computer stuff. Do you have concerns about where Google is going? If you were a revenue-generating website, would you be concerned about your ability to stay in business? Your thoughts on that?
Yes, but I'm not more concerned than I was 2, 3, 4 years ago pre-AI. And this is speaking as someone who actually launched a internet publication in the past 3 years. And there is such a toll booth on the internet already. It has nothing to do with generative AI. It has to do with the stranglehold that Google has and Facebook has on the market. So I don't think AI is going to dramatically shift it. I think one thing that's curious is, have you talked to anybody who seems super excited about the potential of Google suddenly giving you AI summaries of websites? No one is saying this is amazing. If you can remember back when Google first came out, back in the days of Ask Jeeves and all those Alta Vista, you had search engines, you type stuff in and it would turn up garbage. And Google was fantastic because you type something into Google and all of a sudden it gave you links that you wanted to go visit. And it was magic and everybody loved it. I don't think anybody's having that same experience with Google right now. I hear a lot of complaints about it. So I don't feel like this is going, on the one hand, I don't think generative AI is going to be a boon. On the other hand, I don't think like it's a new twist. I think it's just the latest saga. I would not be surprised, this is my prediction, if in 3 to 4 years, people use a very different means of discovering content on the internet than going to a search engine and typing words into a box, because the experience is getting worse and worse and it's not giving us what we want or what we need.
Not to continue down the rabbit hole too much longer, but I asked Meathead if he thought websites would become irrelevant or unnecessary to keep up as some might do now. Is that a thought or no?
I think free websites will become ones that you can just get to and just get lots of information off of. The economics don't work. I tried to launch one 2 or 3 years ago and just said this is pointless if to try to get something new into the market. I work for lots of websites who and web content producers. Increasingly, they're putting up very firm paywalls. That they're doing subscription models. So I think the business model will change. I don't think your model will be put everything online for free and hope you attract a lot of eyeballs and then somehow make money out of it through advertising. I think you're going to see it go back to the way it used to be, which is you would pay money for content, and it may not be a lot of money, but it'd be more than zero.
For the last couple of years, we have enjoyed not only your segments here on this show, but you've also made appearances during what we call Hall of Fame month. And that's where we are right now. Barbecue Hall of Fame had their release of the 10 finalists this past Wednesday, a week ago tomorrow. And we learned who the 10 names, not all new by any stretch, but 10 names that are on this year's finalists. That list is sent out to the current living members of the Hall of Fame. They get to vote for their top 3 off the 10. And then whoever the top 4 vote. I'm sorry, they get to vote for their top 4 out of the 10, and then whoever the most, the highest vote getting 4 are the ones that will make up the living members
and that's
of the barbecue.
new this year, because in previous years the top 3, so they've expanded it to let four people in this year.
Did you have a chance to look at the list?
I sure did. Yep.
Did you have any thoughts on the list as far as either recurring? Because some there were 3 that were second year recurring. There was 1 that was a third year recurring, and then the rest made it on only for the first time this year. So amongst those 3 different categories, anybody that sticks out or general thoughts about the finalists?
Well, I don't think it's surprising. I think, and I thought Amy Mills did a great job last week, sort of giving the color commentary and all that. She has such, she knows so many people and has such great insight. But one of the things y'all talked about was, do you automatically get back on the list if you don't make it this year? I think it's a shame they let 3 people in. We have 3 new, first timers on the list, and the other 7 are repeats, or have been on it before. I don't think it was super surprising, because a lot of those folks have been on the list before. And if you bubbled it to the top, I was stunned Greg Rempe was not on the list, first and foremost, which
of course
my biggest takeaway. I thought this is the year for sure, and I feel bad that I wasn't at the table to help, roll some logs for you.
I don't want to ask the question, so I'm going to ask it very generally. When you get to a point where a name is brought up, because you go through all of the names that come in through the general collection hopper, and then I would assume like 10 seconds are spent on somebody that nobody knows, and then there might be a longer process for somebody that everybody, or the majority, the quorum might feel deserves a little bit more of an argument for. What's that process like? I mean, do you pick a name out and then secretly you're having discussions with somebody else to second or third you, or is it all done independently?
No, it's not. It's not that conspiratorial. I didn't sign anything to not give away my, not to tell the secrets. And it's really not that dramatic. But the matter of fact is, there's a long list. I think it's almost 100 people. You have to.
I think it was 89. There were 89 different people nominated this year. That was surprising.
It's a huge list. And what you cannot do is get 6, 7, 8 people on a call and then talk about all 89 people, in order. So what you have to sort of do is, and the way we ended up sort of coming down to it was, everyone would sort of review the list offline by themselves, sort of have their picks. And then we just sort of go through the list, and anybody who wanted to would say, yes, let's discuss Greg Rempe. Let's discuss, Danielle BBQ. And, anybody who got the nod went on the short list, which usually ended up still being a lot, like 20, 30 people. Yeah. And then you would go through and have that discussion. So, so I think certain people go to bat for others, more than others. It's like any kind of spirited discussion, but it's reasonably straightforward. And I think, I don't think there's any, great injustices or anything in terms of who made it or who didn't make it.
Who should have been, except for me? Yeah. Who should have been on the list, aside from me? Who should have been on the list this year that isn't, in your opinion?
It's hard for me to say, because I don't know exactly who was on the long list of all the nominees, because there are new nominees every year. But just in general, the ones I've not seen in the past, because I don't think they've even been nominated. But I feel like there are a couple of people that we're missing. Calvin Trillin is one of those, if you think about the writers who should be on there, I'm sort of surprised I've never seen him even nominated. Great barbecue writer. He wrote for the New Yorker for a long time. He's in his late 80s now, and I don't know that he's even still actively writing, but he was one of the early champions of American barbecue back in the 70s and 80s, when it was really falling off the map. He was from Kansas City, went to bat for Arthur Bryant's and called it the best restaurant in the world, and wrote all kinds of wonderful articles about barbecue. Yeah, no, completely. He was traveling around the country for the New Yorker, doing these like political type of reports, but every now and again he sort of file a view from the road about various types of food. And in fact, he's one of America's great food writers who wrote for the first time about all these wonderful local food festivals and food traditions, including lots of different barbecue joints at a time where most America wasn't interested in barbecue at all. He sort of helped bring it back and helped generate the revival of American barbecue that happened in the 90s and then into the 2000s. So not as well known. So maybe the Hall of Fame doesn't apply, but certainly as in terms of influence and importance, I'd put Calvin Trillin on, Calvin Trillin on the list. I also think we're at this point where we've got we're starting to get this next generation of barbecue pitmasters and restaurateurs who maybe are finally ready to get on that list. And Sam Jones is one who I think of Skylight Inn and Sam Jones barbecue fame. Rodney Scott made it into the Hall of Fame already. Aaron Franklin made it into the Hall of Fame already. And they're all of this, but basically the same generation. They're that generation that early 21st century helped bring craft barbecue and back and put it on the map. And Sam, in his case, third generation pitmaster at Skylight Inn, is sort of just like Rodney Scott is tapping into his family traditions. So Sam wasn't on the list this year, but he certainly belongs on it. And hopefully down the road, hopefully he'll be on there very soon.
Of the list that is currently existing for 2024, just for conversation's sake, who would you be voting for if you had a vote? Who would be your top four?
Yeah, I was thinking about that.
By the
earlier.
way, everybody deserves the vote. All well accepting.
I don't think anybody in the 10 does not deserve to be on that list.
Sure, right.
But like everything, there's somebody. It should be this should be their year, and others, they'll get in a little bit later. I think Malcolm Reed for me is a slam dunk. He should be in this year. I think he was on the list last year.
Yes, this is the second time.
Just in terms of importance and impact, I think certainly he deserves it. I go back and forth between Dave Close and Fast Eddie. I feel like you only let one pit maker in per year. I think one of the two of them belongs. I may lean a little bit more toward Fast Eddie Martin, just because I think he sort of pioneered that gravity feed pellet cooker. So maybe Fast Eddie. Those are on the list. And then it's a sentimental favorite, but Steve Grady or Grady, depending how you say it, who's a pitmaster from Grady's Barbecue in Dudley, North Carolina, which I've been to many, many times. A fantastic place, off the beaten path. So he's definitely not world famous, but he is one of those links to the past. And Grady's Barbecue is not just a great barbecue joint, but it's sort of like a throwback to a style that we are losing. So I would probably have to vote for Steve, just for the almost the romance of that old style of whole hog cookery.
I'm going to save who I would vote in for next week or the week after that. Unfortunately, this is like the first time in recent memory when we've done this where our embedded correspondence segment hasn't been the Tuesday and then the next day where they actually announce. So it's going to be a week in advance of that. So we're all deciding we're going to use the honor system and come up with the four we think that the Hall is going to be putting in, and then be very honest with everybody else that following week when we've already learned.
You should do a sealed envelope where everybody has to write it down.
Yeah. So we'll do that, and then everybody will open it. But I think out of all the list, Steve Grady is in the third time. So if I'm a betting man, I would say the lockdown to get in one of the four is going to be Steve, just because this is his third time on. And it appears that if you get on the list three times over the last few years, that eventually you get into the Barbecue Hall of Fame. So everybody else is two, like Dave and Ed and Malcolm are all second year, and then Roy, Perez, Van Sykes, Phil McLeod, Andy Husbands, Rick Brown, and DVQ all first-timers this year. So that's my thought on how this whole thing might shake out. And we'll see how that goes. A week from tomorrow, we will learn who the class is. We'll learn who the legacy members are, and if there will be an impact award here in 2024 as well. Anything you'd like to promote here before I let you go tonight?
Not a whole lot, except to say that I've been busy this month writing a bunch of barbecue pieces for Southern Living, which will come out over the next few months. But We are working on the best. We decided not to do the top 50 barbecue list this year. We've typically not done them every year. We did them back to back in 2023 and 2022 because so much had changed. So we're going to skip the top 50 list this year, and we're going to do the top, I think, 20 or 25. I think it's 25 best new barbecue joints in the South. And so I've been working on that and having a lot of fun with that. Took a spin up through Virginia, ate a lot of good Virginia barbecue. Virginia, maybe a topic for another time, is a wonderful state with a wonderful barbecue state with a really revitalizing barbecue scene. So I'll promote that. That will be coming out sometime later this summer. So keep an eye out for the best new barbecue joints in the South.
All right. Robert, always appreciate the time, and we will see you in June.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, Graham.
Robert Moss right there. Be on the lookout for the new stuff that he has coming out. Absolutely. Always looking forward to that. Virginia is steeped in the barbecue tradition. In fact, some believe that it is where barbecue started. I know, fighting words. But if you go back through the history books, you might learn something. Are you tired of settling for mediocre grilling experiences? Then it's time to step your game up.
Step your game up.
Bring the ultimate flavor and cooker to the backyard barbecues. Pits and Spits charcoal grills, offering the highest quality live fire cooking experience you can get in the market today. Using either wood or charcoal, the solid fuel grills produce those classic flavors you're looking for when you have the time to fire up the grill and cook for family and friends. With a large adjustable fuel tray, you can raise and lower the fire to control and fine-tune the heat. Their take on the very popular Santa Maria style grill, check them out at pitsandspits.com/BBQ Central. That's pitsandspits.com/BBQ Central, all spelled out, and you can use promo code Charcoal Central at checkout. You can save $150 off this grill as well. Charcoal Central at checkout when you go to pitsandspits.com/BBQ Central. All right, let's wrap up this first hour. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Continuing to produce incredibly mediocre content in an exceptionally professional way. You're listening and watching the BBQ Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
And we thank Robert Moss for joining us last segment. A lot of Hall of Fame talk. Some unplanned computer AI talk as well, piggybacking on the previous segment with Meathead. So certainly appreciate that. RobertFMoss.com is his website. He's also somewhat active on social media handles. A lot of times it's Robert F. Moss. Twitter's a little different, Mosser RF or something like that. So just search for Robert Moss and you'll find him there if you like looking over on Twitter. We didn't get to the planned topic of rubs and seasonings and their tied history to Southern Style BBQ. So we'll talk about that in June. That was a planned topic to go over, but with the release of the finalists for 2024 BBQ Hall of Fame, and since he had been on the names committee for the last 2 or 3 years, that, as I mentioned, sat in and did some of that bio stuff when we were announcing those finalists over the last couple of years. Good to get his take. Man, between Fast Eddie and Dave Close, who do you pick? Does anybody even know who Fast Eddie and Dave Close are? Robert kind of let the cat out of the bag a little bit, but for the new folks, if you've only been in it for the last 10 years, do you know the names Fast Eddie? Do you know the names Robert Moss? Do you know the name Dave Close? Both, in my estimation, Hall of Fame worthy. I could make an argument that they should both be going in. It doesn't matter if they're pit makers or not. I think I might have just let the cat out of the bag. All right, let's go ahead and refresh our libations. We'll point to the second hour. We'll get a poll recap or a poll update. Got some other things to get to as well. You are listening and watching the BBQ Central Show. right here on the Barbecue Central Network. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Hello, everybody. This is Gary Chuck, host of Wine Library TV, aka WLTV, and this is BBQ Central.
Happy to have you aboard here for the really big barbecue show.
We cook because we have to, and we grill because we want to.
Hit me! Fine, how's it going?
You have a great show. I'm a big fan.
Boing.
So what seems to be the problem here? This man looks like he's dead, and he's in the crackle.
Charbono! It's all about the charbono, dude.
Succulent fish. What?
He ate 54 wieners.
Oh, listen, Lavernius, shut your face.
I'm shaking like a dog shit peach seeds.
We have top men working on it right now. Top men.
Welcome to the second hour. It's the Barbecue Central Show, where we talk about all things that are important to the world of barbecue and grilling. We do it live right here every Tuesday from 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern. The show's being recorded. So if you're missing any of this, on Wednesday, you get hour number 1 in the podcast feed. On Thursdays, you get hour number 2 in the podcast feed. And we'll talk about Friday here in just a second because I had the whole promo written out. And then first thing this morning as I was getting my run in, got an email from John Solberg, and he said, hey, if you've already worked up your promo for this coming week's Best Moments show, I got some bad news. You're going to need to do it over again. I've snuck in a different show last minute. As I reviewed it, it made sense. We'll talk about it here in just 1 second. The show is originating from
Palm City, USA, Cleveland.
Still to come on the show this evening, a barbecue legend, at least in my opinion, and should be yours, the one Jim Minion. We say good evening to those of you watching this show tonight through one of our video streaming platforms. You can go to facebook.com/BBQ Central Show. You can also go to twitter.com/BBQ Central Show. Or you can watch it over on YouTube, where a lot of people do it because there's a nice chat going on, and you can go there by visiting youtube.com/@BBQ Central Show. There is a new YouTube poll question of the week that we've been running through the first hour and asking both of our guests, and we'll get the update here. I was asking everybody, you believe that Sam's Club can sell a well-built, feature-rich grill at a value price? And currently, 54% of you are saying, yes, you do believe that Sam's Club can pull off such a feat. We'll talk more about that after a little bit. But we've been running really close to 50-50 all the way through. In fact, at certain points, it's been dead on 50-50. Hey, Bill Rempe checking in from Click City. That's Rochester. Crapchester, if you're from around those parts and you're allowed to say that kind of thing like I am. Not recently, but it was at one point. Coming up on the best moments of the Barbecue Central Show in 10 minutes or less this coming Friday, episode 334. We now take you back to May 30th of 2017. As I had mentioned not too long ago, this past Wednesday, the 10 finalists for the Barbecue Hall of Fame were announced exclusively here on the show in conjunction with the American Royal and Amy Mills from 17th Street Barbecue. In this Best Moments segment, I was not only joined by myself, I was also joined by my parents on the phone. And at that point, they were giving me their condolences and trying to bolster my spirits for not being picked on the Barbecue Hall of, or for not being picked for the Barbecue Hall of Fame again. Now, remember, this was 7 years ago. So the way it was shaking out back then, far different than the way it shakes out. And as we look at it here in 2024, am I still not in the Barbecue Hall of Fame? Yes, I'm still not in the Barbecue Hall of Fame. I take some time in this show to talk about the behind-the-scenes work that I have done to encourage the Hall of Fame to be more transparent about the whole process. And as time elapsed, moved on, eroded, to their credit, they have become truly open, truly transparent about everything, the process, the people included, the way they get to their decisions that are being made. That wasn't happening in 2017 and 2016 and 2015. Nobody knew how the hell it was happening. You were just sent a list and said, here's who's in the Barbecue Hall of Fame. And I spent a significant portion of time during those years going, who's in charge of that? How do you come up with that? They're just telling you what's happened with no ability to know any inside knowledge on how decisions are being made, how people are being nominated, what things are being taken into consideration. And again, as I said, everything has changed over the course of the years where now everything is out in the open, everything's talked about, to the point where a then Emily Park got in touch with the show and said, not only are we happy to talk about everything that we're doing and naming names and processes, but we would love to come on the show, partner with you, and announce exclusively who's in the Barbecue Hall of Fame. And then we did that for a couple of years. And then not only did we do that, we added who the finalists were here over the last handful of years as well. So you have a early date in May where we announced the 10 finalists. And then 2 weeks after that, typically, we give the final announcement of who's going to be making up the class. So as I had mentioned, week after tomorrow, or 1 week from tomorrow, the 22nd, you will have your 2024 Barbecue Hall of Fame class announced, along with the folks that make up the, what do you call it? Not the legends, but we have the living members, and then the... Why can't I think of what that's called? Somebody in the instant chat, tell me what that category is called that I can't see. Legacy, of course, is what I'm trying to say. So we'll learn who the legacy members, and then I was talking about with Robert, we'll see if there's an impact award. Impact award is not mandatory if they don't feel that an impact award is necessary. It's not something that they put out every year. But in this Best Moment show this coming Friday, you'll hear what was happening there. You'll also hear my parents join the show, which is rare. You can subscribe to not only the Best Moments, but this show by going to thebbqcentralshow.com/subscribe. And don't forget, if you want to hear a past guest or segment that you feel has been lost in the archives, email John and let him know what you would like to hear. John, Jon, at thebbqcentralshow.com, and he'll do his best to meet your expectation. Also, don't forget, we are only 4 days away from the 2024 version of the Famous Dave's All-Star Barbecue Challenge Series. Not one, but two opening week contests, one in Fresno, California, and one in a place called Union Gap, Washington. So if it's not one, it's two opening days. And as Mike McLeod said a couple weeks ago, they probably could have done 6 or 7 different opening locations during that first weekend. But two was going to be all the bandwidth that they could handle for that. So in these first two opening weekends here on the 18th, so 4 days from now, not only do the teams have an opportunity to win a cash award, that's nice. The Grand Champ and Reserve Grand Champ win bids to the barbecue portion of the 2024 World Food Championships, which will be in Dallas. No. Move to my favorite city across the land, Indianapolis, Indiana. That's right. Going to Indy, baby. So for all of the info on the upcoming season, for other locations that might happen during the course of the year, remember this runs from now until the end of August. And then you have the World Food Championships in Indianapolis in the beginning of, was it the beginning of November? Shaky on that from a weather standpoint. We're still very concerned about that, but 90% of it's going to be inside, as Mike McLeod said, so don't worry about it. And the website is worldfoodchampionships.com/allstars. Once again, that's worldfoodchampionships.com/allstars. And 54% of you are still saying that you believe that Sam's Club can build or can sell a well-built, feature-rich grill at a value price. We'll ask Jim Minion what his thoughts on that here are in just a second. Yeah, so let's go ahead and cut it there. I have some other stuff that I could get into, but I'm not going to have the time to mull through it. And don't forget, if you are a competitor and you missed out on that Famous Dave series last year, there were still a very small handful of locations that had open spots. I think it was $100 to reserve your spot in there for your chance to win a cash award and then going down to the World Food Championships, depending on how you place. So let's get at it. Before we talk to Jim Minion, let's talk about that badass Primo grill that everybody's talking about. What do we know about it? Is it round in size? No. And that's what makes it the best, because it's not round. It's not like everything else. It's oval. Now, you might think, oval, round, what's the difference? Well, getting a little bit more of that stretch, a little more of that oblongedness, which is not a word. Now you do have the ability to really set up a 2-zone fire that you might want to be using. It also comes with a separator if you really want to get down to segregation of coals and non-coals. Stick the separator right down there in the middle. You can put the coals on the left or the right side, leave the other side completely open. If you want to go indirect to a certain degree, meat over where there's no coals, then you have the coal side burning away. If you want to go fully indirect, now you can add a deflector plate on top of that heat, make it truly indirect and 2-zone. When the ceramics heat up, now you're really in for the major benefits. Extended cook times, especially if you light it the right way. We'll talk about that next segment. Also, these things are what I call fuel misers. You get some of these cookers, they get up the temperature, and they are affected with whatever weather climate you're in. If you're in really cold weather, really windy weather, they're not made all that well. The heat just glides right out of it, or the tolerances are letting in too much wind. You don't want that. Spike temperatures, and then the charcoal is having to work even harder to maintain the temperature. You might run out of fuel. Who knows in an overnight cook? Not with the Primo. Those ceramics heat up. You got endless time. Here's the bottom line. Best ceramics in the biz? Yes. Made here in America, baby? Yeah, it is. If you just have to have a round one because you can't get it out of your head, they do have a round option, but don't do that. Break the mold. Not literally, but get out of it. Forget about green. Forget about red. Let's go black. Let's go oval. Let's go Primo. Only sold through dealers. Find one near you. PrimoGrill.com. That's PrimoGrill.com. Bunch of accessories as well. And don't forget, XXL is in pre-order. So if you want the biggest one they have currently, get the XXL. We're back with Jim Minion right after this. Stick around. Be right back.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the Barbecue Central Show.
Welcome back. This portion of the show being brought to you by Pit Barrel Cooker, the most unbelievable outdoor cooking device on the planet. Currently available in 3 sizes with a host of accessories. Doesn't matter if you're a beginner or a professional. It's a cooker you want to add to the arsenal. You visit pitbarrelcooker.com and tell them the Barbecue Central Show sent you. I had a great conversation on the phone with Noah and Amber Glanville. Rare do I catch them both in a car on the same call. But not only were we talking about a little bit of business, We're also talking a lot about nonsense, and I'm not going to bore you with that. And by bore you, I mean offend you, because it got a little classless. And that's why I'm going to keep it classy. My guest in the second hour, a barbecue legend. And for those of us that really know him, he is whatever is above the rank of legend. If you use a can, a drum, a bullet-style smoker, you have inevitably fired it up the way my next guest devised it, these many decades ago. If you have ever seen the acronym MM or seen the phrase the method, it is referencing my next guest. So let's welcome back a very long-time friend and legend, the one, the only, Jim Minion joins me here on the show. Jim, I would be lying if I said this was the first time I've seen you face-to-face, but as of yesterday, I think that was the first time I had ever seen you face-to-face. So very happy to see your face, more happy to have you on the show. And it's been a number of years since the first time you were on, maybe back in 2008 or 2009 when the show was just getting its live legs going. For the folks that, we have a YouTube poll question of the week that we're asking everybody. You believe, Jim, that Sam's Club can sell a well-built, feature-rich grill at a value price, yes or no? Jim, I can't hear you. Maybe there's a mute. Oh, I think I hear you now. No, I don't hear you. Weird. Believe it or not, we were sound checking yesterday, of course. Oh, I'm hearing myself a little bit. I don't have a mic on you there, Jim. No, not yet. It's like I can hear clicking somewhere. A lot of beeps and say something there, Jim. No, I can't. That's weird. It almost wants to make the connection and then no connection. So weird. Well, this is what happens when we do it live, folks.
We'll do it live.
We'll do it live. I don't know if anybody heard this or not, but I've been known to ask very intelligent questions.
That's one of the most intelligent questions anybody has ever asked me.
That happened on this show last week. Believe it or not, those words. Let's see where Jim's at. Jimmy, do I have you yet? No? A lot of electronic sounds here. Oh, now everything went quiet altogether. Well, we'll wait for Jim Minion. Of course. Plenty to talk about. Of course, we want to get his take on what he thinks Sam's Club may or may not be doing. Bill Rempe weighing in on the instant chat. Rochester is like Buffalo without the glitter. Right. Guy, the cooking Sam, asking, when are you going to have Jim Snake on? Or Jim Pyramid... Holy Christ. Pyramid doused with lighter fluid. I don't know. Jim Snake. I don't even know who that is. How about now, Jim? No? It's a no. This is all the more frustrating because, as I was saying before, we had a highly successful sound check. But this is what happens when you do it live.
We'll do it live.
You never know. You never know what's going to happen. Jim, you might want to try closing the whole browser down and then trying to reconnect in, maybe. That might help. Who knows? We'll keep the channel open. Sometimes a good reset is where it's at. Living a rogue life is saying, so good to see Jim. Haven't seen you since Rick, is it Noggs? last cooking class. I don't know who Rick Noggs is. Perhaps a fellow Pacific Northwesterner. Pacific Northwesterner? That's probably what I want to say. Hey, everybody that's hearing this live right now, if you go back on podcast, like, this is not going to be here. So we can get really loose. All this is going to be edited out. Not so much on the video side of things, unfortunately. I'm not going to go pull it down and put it back up or anything like that. But... Oh, while we're waiting for our pal Jim Minion. Look what I got in the mail.
Can you hear me now?
Whoa, there he is. Jim Minion's right there. All right, hold on. The duck away my Milt Buckner traveling music. Can you hear me, Jim? That might be more important than anything.
One of my USB ports has apparently died since we talked yesterday.
Wow.
So it's allowing me to use the mic now. It gave me the headphones and yesterday. It gave me both yesterday. But today it's just the mic.
All right. You can hear me, though?
I can hear you.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
We are on the way here. So, was asking you YouTube poll question of the week. Do you think that Sam's Club can sell a well-built, feature-rich grill at a value price?
I think any of these companies can do it if they want to. The question is, do they want to?
52%.
What corners are they going to cut?
Yeah, well, right. 52% of the YouTube voting public agree with you and agree with me that we believe that can actually happen. 48% are saying no. Is there a story of Jim Minion before the barbecue stuff, or has it always been a part of your life?
I grilled like everybody else in their backyard. I was not good at it. I didn't start actually doing barbecue until 1998. I was 51 years old. I took a class with Paul Kirk out here in the Pacific Northwest, and we cooked brisket, pork butt, chicken, and ribs. We made our own rubs. And then they ran it like a contest, and the stuff was judged. And we ended up coming in second and my partner and I decided to go ahead and try competing. So, our first year competing, we won Idaho State Championship.
So they say my career was set at that point?
Yeah, and I have a tendency to, when I get into something, kind of maybe go a little overboard. And so it's, barbecue became a thing, yeah.
In 99, different than 2024, where you appear to have access to all sorts of information. You can sign up for everything under God's green earth. How are you even finding out that there's a barbecue class coming to your neck of the woods?
A buddy of mine, the guy that I cooked with originally, he heard about it through the Pacific Northwest Barbecue Association. And so it was a class that they held. And that's how we got involved. But yeah, you didn't hear about it much.
Were there a lot of contests?
Especially what did we have? Maybe 9 or 10. But we have out here in the Pacific Northwest, we got to travel because they get spread out. So it's anywhere from Western Washington to Eastern Washington to Oregon to Idaho to Montana. Oof. If you want to do a lot of competitions, you're traveling.
Back in the day, what are you cooking on? Not only in the backyard, but for those competitions?
We were cooking on a small, close offset. It wasn't a trailer unit. We just put it in the back of the pickup and went off. Not the ideal way to cook a competition. The second year, we actually built a offset pit, but we didn't have it tuned yet for one of the biggest contests of the year. So that's how I ended up buying a Weber Smokey Mountain.
What were you doing for job if you're just getting into barbecue at 51. I think there's a fascination this day and age where everybody's trying to do live fire is the main gig. I assume that's not the case for you, especially given the age that you had found it. So what else were you doing to supplement the income?
I was in the car business. I worked for a mega dealer out here. I was the fleet manager for 10 different car lines, selling to the government and businesses and stuff like that. So that's where my income came from. That's the reason we could afford to go do it, was because of that job.
When you look at what you were doing competition-wise, there's some other things we'll talk about a little later, but just from a high level, how do you look at competitions now? Maybe you don't even compete versus what it was like when you were doing it back in 99, 2000.
Well, the basics are still the same. The rules have been changed. Fads you go through, a sauce here, a sauce there, a rub here, a rub there. With Weber Smokey Mountain, there's a lot of automation now. People are putting fans and all kinds of stuff on them. Not that I didn't have one available to me, because when the Barbecue Guru came out at the very beginning, I ran into him at, can't remember if it was American Royal or the Jack Daniels, and he gave me one because he wanted my ideas on it. So I didn't actually use it for long. I've been doing this for so long that it's by memory, by touch, by feel. And it's kind of the same thing when I was using offsets. I would touch them and I could tell you when I needed to add wood, that type of thing. So it just comes from lots of cooking.
You still compete?
No, it's too much work. I got a bad back.
The last time we talked, you were Two Loose Screws Catering. You still do some type of barbecue catering, or are you out of that as well?
I don't do it officially, but I live in a retirement community, and we got a golf league here. I cook for that. I cook for family. I cook for friends. So, I mean, I still cook, but I'm not catering or anything like that.
Depending on the audience, they see the last name Minion, and maybe it sparks a association with this thing that we've come to know about, the Minion Method. So I don't know if anybody's gone through the old forums to hear the recount of how this actually came to be, and for the folks that are just tuning into, like, this is the guy that invented the Minion Method. This is him, Minion Jim Minion. Take us back to the creation of the Minion Method. How did it happen?
We were cooking in a regional championship, and we had that pit that we had just built I was talking about, and it wasn't tuned correctly. So I sent my wife to get a Weber Smokey Mountain at the local fireplace shop. She came back with it, I put it together. I go, how am I going to light this? Some backstory, I'd met Chris Lilly, and he was cooking on Jed Masters.
Yep.
So I watched the racetrack thing going on the Jed Master. So I kind of used that as an inspiration, poured in some charcoal, pour lit charcoal over the top, and the rest of it's kind of history. I don't even do that anymore. Nowadays I use mainly lump charcoal, and I've got a weed burner, and that's how I started. And I've done it, like I said, for so long and so much that I just know how much that I need to heat to get what temperatures I want.
When did you know that this Minion thing was going to be of legendary status?
I went on Ray's Kansas City Barbecue Forum back in 99, 98. I started in 98. And somebody just happened to say, I'm using Weber's directions, and I can't get this pit under 350 degrees because they told you to light off all the charcoal and make sure it was all burning. So I just wrote down what it was I did. And then the questions started coming. fast and furious. And within a matter of less than a month, one of the guys on the forum said, well, I tried the Minion Method and it really works. At that point, I started hearing from people from all over the United States, Canada, South America, Australia, South Africa, Europe. I mean, I literally was hearing from people all over the world.
Wow.
I figured maybe something happened.
It's really, I said it was a revolution in people lighting their bullet style smokers. And when you look at one specific, you'd mentioned the Weber Smokey Mountain. I fear, had I not found the virtual Weber Bullet website, that I would have never found you, learned about the Minion Method, and most likely I would have ditched my Weber Smokey Mountain because, as you were talking about, I'm a follow directions guy. So the first time I used it, I was like, holy shit, I'm never going to see 300 degrees, let alone 225, because I have a raging belly fire in the bottom of this Weber Smokey Mountain. And having access to that forum and then learning about the Minion Method really saved my barbecue life. And really, you've kept me in this game, whether you knew it or not, because if I never would have figured out how to control the temperature, I'd been like, screw this, and I, would have found some other hobby. Did you know? So you just knew inherently, or through your intermittent expertise of fire management, that building temperature was going to be a better way to go than obviously trying to knock a hotter fire down?
I kind of understood, like, if you take unlit charcoal and you put hot charcoal on top of it, it's going to, and then add air to it, the mixture, it's going to burn down. People go, what about the smell? Well, the fire on top actually works as a catalytic converter to a degree, and takes away 99% of that smell. Using lump charcoal helps a lot too. But like I said, I had seen the Jed Master, so I knew that it worked. Chris Looney was doing a hell of a job back in those days. I mean, he was winning contests big time back then. And so, we became friends, quite good friends since then. But it was interesting. What's really interesting for me is that you're advertising Primo cookers. When they first came out, Ray Lampe was the spokesperson for Big Green Egg.
Yeah.
And he and I were close friends. And so when Primo came out, they knew about our friendships in some way. They got a hold of me and sent me 5 cookers.
5?
And 5.
Wow.
Some of the first shipment got broken on the way. But so I get the cooker. I actually build a trailer for it so I can suspend the cookers to a degree so you don't get beat up on the road. And I cooked for them for 3 years. I also was able to, they were having a real problem with the fireboxes breaking up. The ceramics wasn't right. And being out here in Seattle, you've got some people in Boeing, that in aerospace, that were able to actually help them create a better mixture for those ceramics, and the rest is kind of history.
So you were dealing with George originally out there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So they've obviously sold to Empire Comfort Systems maybe 4 years ago or something like that, and now they're under new ownership. They got a really cool factory down in Illinois somewhere, I believe, or maybe it's Missouri, somewhere kind of south in the southern part of the state. And it's been really nice to see them, grow and advance a little bit, because I thought that the ceramic market over the last 10 years has been pretty stale. There hasn't been a lot of great marketing. There hasn't been a lot of really noticeable influencers from a social media standpoint that say, hey, we're cooking on ceramics. I thought they were kind of dying out, but there does seem to be a little bit of a tick up in interest in ceramics in general.
I think price point might play a role in part of that, because they are inherently a little more expensive. But they can do things that a lot of other cookers can. Like, if you want a pizza oven, they're a pizza oven. If you want a grill, they're a grill. If you want to smoke, you can get them down. And like you advertised, once you get the ceramics up, keeping the temperature where you need it is not a problem. Putting on a lot of smoke that can be a problem. They're not smoky.
In 2007, you sat on what has become the most downloaded podcast my show has ever experienced. You were sitting on a brisket panel with the likes of Ray Lampe, who we just talked about, Fast Eddie Morin, FEC cooker, also a competitive cook, and Leanne Whippen. And we did a brisket roundtable. Within the minutes of that particular show, 75% of the dais took a shit all over Wagyu beef. Jim Minion was the only guy that had experience using it on a fairly regular basis, probably had obviously fairly regular access to it. And when we look where we're at here in 2024, it seems to be something that you couldn't possibly live without. How did that evolution happen?
There's a meat packer company out here. What is their name? But they're out of Idaho.
Snake River Farms.
They were raised Snake River Farms. They were raising a mix. They called it Kobe Black Angus mix. Well, it was Wagyu Black Angus. So it wasn't straight Kobe or straight Wagyu. From there, we actually did meet a guy out of Texas that was raising Wagyu. And then we also were contacted by some people out of Australia that were raising pure Wagyu. And so we were getting it back in those days, though. Was it more expensive than, say, just Black Angus? Yes, but it was like $2.38 a pound. Today, we all know what, $160, $180, $200 for a brisket. But we, believe it or not, two loose screws in 2008, I believe it was. We bought more of their Wagyu Black Angus than anybody. That included chain store, grocery stores, meat markets, everybody. We were their number one client.
Wow.
I cooked a ton of that beef at the Oregon State Fair in 11 days, along with a ton of pork and a half ton of ribs.
Wow. You're talking literal measurements here, literal ton, literal half.
No, I'm talking 5,000 pounds of meat.
Yeah. Wow.
I had a commercial cooker at the time. I had a commercial cooker. It was an old Hickory that I had, and it was running 24/7 for 11 days, and the grease was going away in 55-gallon drums.
Wow. So Wagyu has seen a huge rise in popularity, fully accessible to pretty much everybody. If you don't have a local supplier that you can grab it at, you can certainly get it online in a myriad of different places. I thought Karabuta pork was going to have a moment about 3 or 4 years ago. And then that one still hasn't seemed to really tip it. You get some of the Duroc, some of the heritage breed stuff, but it never seemed to really strike the same type of popularity chord that Wagyu did. I know you were very versed in using that too with the catering. Are you surprised that it didn't achieve the same type of general population success that the Wagyu did?
I honestly, heritage pork, in my opinion, is absolutely fantastic. Supply is the problem. It's hard to supply, and if you do find it, it's usually fairly expensive. But it's pork that's got fat in it. It's not. They haven't, haven't bred it out of the meat. And the differences to me are the flavor's better, the end product's better. But it turns out that a lot of people have never had good pork.
Mm-hmm.
They just haven't had it. So they taste it and they just don't know what it is. Well, this is weird. Well, yeah, that's what pork tastes like. But I love this stuff.
What have been the 2 or 3 biggest changes just in live fire in general? Doesn't have to be competition stuff, but what are the 2 or 3 biggest changes you think have happened during your time in it?
Well, a lot of it had to do with the competition world. I don't know if I might hurt some people's feelings, but
that's fine. Nobody
back
listens.
In 99 to 2001, if you look at the different organizations, there was a lot of whoever ran it also could decide who was going to be the winner of the competition before the competition was held. There were a lot of guys on the boards of these groups that were in it for the money. You weren't supposed to be. You told everybody you weren't, but you were in it for the money. And it was well. I mean, I got into trouble. I said some things online, and KCBS said if I kept talking like this, they're going to get rid of me. And I said, do you really want to do that? Because I'm holding back.
Yeah.
Because I'm on the board. If you get rid of me, I'll just let it all go. They decided maybe I should stay. But yeah, that part was interesting. I'm hoping that it got better. It's changed so much since I was doing it. I was trying to do a thing on the West Coast, and basically some health problems and just I didn't have the time with doing my regular work and doing this, trying to get money, and I just didn't have time to do it all. So, but I was getting guys from California and like that coming in up and down the coast, which hadn't been going on. It was usually the guys in the Pacific Northwest. Once in a while they go to California. You might see one guy from California come up here, that type of thing. But like I said, the travel's long. It's hard.
How do you think pellet cookers have affected the backyard enthusiasm for live fire? And has it been positive?
If you can learn some techniques to get some smoke out of them, they can be just fine. And if you're catering, doing something like that where you've got a lot of stuff to do, pellet cookers are great. I won 2 Traegers and sold them before we left the contest.
Really?
I owned a trailer, the number 99 trailer made from Traeger's made. Now, on the other hand, you were talking about Fast Eddie. I knew Fast Eddie and Ray and all those guys. Well, Ray and I cooked on Fast Eddie's cookers in different places. And honestly, they're a great cooker. You can get more smoke flavor. You're not going through 50, 100 pounds of pellets in a cook. I mean, they were insulated. It was a great cooker. Difference in price was quite a bit. But I don't have any problem with them. If you it's really hard to get smoke on them. You almost need a smoke generator to get enough smoke.
Anything you have coming up that you want to promote, or well, let me ask you a better question. Through the whole Minion Method stuff, did you ever get any type of recognition or an award from Weber specifically? Because I know that was attached to the Weber Smokey Mountain quite a bit, saying, hey, as an alternative way of lighting, you might want to consider this thing called the Minion Method.
Well, I don't know if most people realize this, but in 99, Weber was talking about discontinuing the Weber Smokey Mountain because the sales were garbage.
Really?
And I came up with this. Their sales turned around. And the only thing they did for me, they didn't talk about me. They didn't do anything at that time, but if I got a hold of them saying I needed a part for the cooker, they just sent it to me.
Yeah.
I didn't have to pay for it. Later on, Jamie, what's his name? I forget his last name. He was writing the cookbooks for Weber.
Oh, Jamie provides.
Yeah, you're right. And he got a hold of me and he said, Jim, I'm doing a wooden charcoal cookbook and I have to talk to you. So I sent him a recipe for a rub. We did an interview on what the method was. They cooked it. Then they came up and did a camera shoot up here, and they posted. They did in that cookbook is that recipe and pictures and explanation of the Minion Method. I've had other things other cookbooks and other publishing that's been done on some of the stuff that my partner and I did. Car Dog's Salmon. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
No,
but it's kind of a West Coast Indian close type of way of smoking salmon. Sunset Magazine, Southern Living, Fiery Foods all published that. Ray Lampy's put a few recipes for me in his books. One of the funniest ones is Fiery Foods came up. We gave them the salmon recipe. They went back and she got a hold of me and said, Jim, I was looking on the internet and you have a recipe for andouille. Can we publish it? And I just went, no, that's just wrong. And she goes, we can't have it. I said, no, you can have it. But nobody goes to Seattle for an andouille recipe when you're from Baton Rouge.
But it had to have been good, right?
It was good.
Yeah.
It was good.
For the folks that are listening, that are just getting into live fire and they're in the Pacific Northwest, how does the weather affect your cooking process out there, or does it not matter?
If you can learn to cook up here, you can literally cook anywhere in the country because we get our share of rain. Now, some of the worst weather I've ever had to deal with was in Kansas City in October during the Royal.
Yeah.
I mean, rain coming sideways at you for 3 days. But you learn you can build yourself a block to block the wind. You learn which vents to use on the bottom of the pit so you're not getting wind blew up the backside. There's ways to do it. I cooked year round. I mean, all the time. So a pop-up can help.
Yeah.
It's just it'll slow you down if you want it to, but doesn't have to.
Jim, I have to say this has been an absolute treat for me. We go way back to just communicating through texts on barbecue forums, back 2004 or 2005 when I was first starting to get into it. So to have you back on the show and just kind of play catch up a little bit really means the world to me. And again, you're kind of, one of the reasons that I've been able to stay in it so long. And without your help, maybe there would have been no show and no ongoing support for the forum. So I just want to give you my thanks and always appreciate the conversation. And thanks for coming on today.
Hey, can I say one thing before we leave?
Please.
I'd like to do a shout out to Carla Hadley. She got a hold of me from Texas and said, I heard you were on the show, and I haven't seen her in a long time. It was special to hear from her.
All right. Well, Jim, thanks for coming on, and let's not have so much time in between the next visit.
You got it, my man. You can always try to get a hold of me.
I will. Appreciate it, Jim. Thanks so much for coming on. And a shout out to Carla, who's visiting there in the chat room. So, boy, that was great. Great conversation there. And real special for me, so maybe a little self-indulgent, I don't know, but that's fine. It's my show. Great hearing how the stories happened, what it was like back in the day, how the Minion Method came to pass, and then how all of a sudden it catches on and he's getting emails from all over the globe about the Minion Method, how to do this, how to do that. I had no idea he was 51 years old when he started getting into it. So that would have been like 20 some years ago. So I wasn't even in it that long. He probably had 4 or 5 years ahead of me. Yeah, 5. He started in 99 and I was starting my forum back in 2004 before the podcast and all that. So unbelievable. Appreciate Jim Minion for that. Let's talk about Franklin Barbecue Pits, because they are a premium offset pit available for sale right now. They have a dealer network that continues to grow. So if you have a barbecue supply store, you're looking to carry premium line cookers, and you don't have an offset line, or you're looking to add an offset line, why not give Franklin's a try? Go to the website, franklinbbqpits.com, fill out the dealer form, and then my man Matt Gase will give you a call and get you set up. I recommend putting in that initial order of 4 or 5. You do a little marketing on your end, tell everybody, come in, check it out on the show floor, feel it, touch it, because you can feel the 1/4 inch thick steel. You know, when it sees heat, it's going to be constructed very well in order to take that heat, give you the heat retention that you need to make the great barbecue, and it's got its own patina, it's got its own personality, it's got a lot of stuff built into it that a lot of people don't think about, that you won't realize until you're lifting the lid, and that bar that you're lifting the lid with just kind of rolls with your wrist. Little things like that. Plus, it's got a badge number, makes it yours. By the way, if you don't live near a dealer and you still want to buy one, you go to franklinbbqpits.com and you order one there. It will ship right to the bottom of your driveway from Franklin Barbecue Pits. They also, if you're a supply store, have other accessories and sauces, rubs, cookbooks, little extra revenue lines for you to bring into the store as well. franklinbbqpits.com. That's franklinbbqpits.com. I was just talking with Aaron earlier today, and we're working out a date to have him back on the show and talk about maybe some non-barbecue stuff. We're coming back to wrap the show. We'll get a ending poll result. So stick around, and we'll be right back.
Whole packers, full racks, legs and thighs, injecting butts. If you've never heard this before, you might think you found the best XXX show ever. Let's get back to the most homoerotic host out there today, Greg Rempe.
And we thank Jim Minion, barbecue legend, for joining us last segment and change. This portion of the show being brought to you by Big Papa Smokers. Listen up, gang. Something special just for you listeners of the show. Doesn't matter if you're a seasoned vet or new. Big Papa's offering the listeners of the show a special deal. Use promo code REMPE at checkout, REMPE. You get $10 off your next $50 purchase of rubs, sauces, and accessories. Don't forget to use promo code REMPE at checkout to claim your next $10 off your next order of $50 or more. And don't forget to check out Big Papa's full line of recipes at cookingwithbigpapa.com. And, of course, follow them on all the social media channels and platforms as well. And I think that catches me up as we get ready to run out of time here this evening. So let's go ahead and get after it. If you missed any of the show, you're just tuning in now, too bad. You can catch it on podcast. By the way, I meant to mention, if you are in the market, because I saw it in the instant chat, if you're in the market for a griddle, there's a thing called, I think it's called Doorbuster at Sam's Club. The same folks that are making this grill we're talking about, Winners, makes a Members Mark 5 burner. It's got to be 36 inches long, wide. They make a 5 burner griddle for $3.99. Like, insane price for the size and what you can get. So if you're in the market for a griddle and you remember a Sam's Club, Check out the gas grill that we're talking about. The Members Mark Pro Series was the patented thermostatic control. But then also look at that 5-burner griddle for $3.99. I mean, you're out with a 5-burner Pro Series gas grill and a huge griddle for about $1,000. No better deal than that. It's great. Don't forget, this coming weekend, we have Memphis in May and we have Smoke Slam. Probably have wrap-up next week. Maybe we get a winner somewhere. We'll see how that goes. Matt Osman, the embedded correspondent in Tennessee, is going to be embedded at times in both locations. He's got a recorder. We'll have some live sound potentially, depending on how it sounds. So stay tuned for that. It is a third Tuesday of a month. Wait a second. Now, wait a damn minute. I'm sorry.
A Barbecue Central Show exclusive news update.
Greg Rempe reporting from the breaking news desk here in Cleveland, Ohio, the city that breaks the most live fire breaking news across the country. Nay, the globe. Programming note, the show next week moves to Wednesday, but only next week. It's not an ongoing thing. Little one, youngest one, graduates from high school Tuesday evening. I don't know if I'm going to have enough time to do that and then get back for the show. So instead of just canceling the show next week, which we never want to do, we're moving the whole entire show. Everybody's already on board. Steven Reichlin, Wes Wright, Brianna Stark, the whole deal said that they, Susie Bullock said they would move to Wednesday next week. So no live show Tuesday. Huge day of live shows on Wednesday. We will announce the 2024 Barbecue Hall of Fame class at 3 p.m. on Wednesday, and then we will have the normal Barbecue Central show on Wednesday night. So programming note, no show next Tuesday. The show will be next Wednesday, the 22nd, from 9 to 11. I trust to have served you with this information. So, how do I always leave you? September 11th, 2001. I will never forget until next Wednesday, this time only. This is your program host and proud U.S. American, Greg Rempe. Good night now.
This is Dion Blumenrader with Big Hoss One Sauce, and you're listening to the best show on all things barbecue with my man, Greg Rempe.